You wanted it and you got it. The full San Francisco 49ers 2025 fantasy preview. What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Gold Standard podcast on the Gold Standard Podcast Network, part of the Pro Football Insiders. I am Rob Stats Guerrera. It is Friday, and you know what that means. Mimosa Michelle Majuk is here. What's up, Michelle?
Hey, I have my mimosa. I have my George Kittle jersey on. We have training camp. Like, what? Life can't get any better. Let's go.
I'm so happy to be here with you. The intelligent, fabulous, hilarious Michelle Majuk is here. My plan to butter you up is in full effect now, because this is what I have decided, Michelle, for my fantasy football season. That's what we're doing on the show today. Don't worry. We'll weave in training camp stuff as we have our discussion. But I've decided for me that this is going to be a full Jesus take the wheel fantasy football season. I am so bad at fantasy football. What I have decided is I'm going to do whatever you say for fantasy football, Niners or otherwise, because I finish last every year. Clearly what I'm doing is not working. So I'm just going to give you the keys to my team, and whatever you suggest when it comes to draft, I'm going to use your rankings, and basically it's all on you this year.
All right. I love it. Let's do it. I'm so down. I was wondering why you're buttering me up, because you're never that nice. I was waiting to see the reasoning, but I'll take it.
And for anyone that doesn't know, Michelle is a researcher for NFL Network and hosts a fantasy football podcast, Locked On Fantasy, every single day. So no one knows fantasy football better than you.
Well, I don't know if I'd say that, but thank you.
I would. So let's dive into it. We'll start, obviously, with the most important man when it comes to fantasy football in the 49ers offense. And I'm going to say Brock Purdy.
Okay, I didn't know if you were about to go with Christian McCaffrey there or not, but I actually had Brock Purdy pulled up first because I mean, so much of this offense and this production just comes down to what type of Brock Purdy do we get. But I will say, so last week on the Locked On Fantasy Football podcast, we did values at each position. And the 49ers players just kept coming up as values. And I think it's because of their disappointing season last year across the board, right? And all the injuries. And now they're all going so much later than they should. So I don't know if I'm just being a homer all of a sudden and have this bias, but I don't think so. So Brock Purdy right now is ranked as the quarterback 11 in consensus rankings. And I think that's really, really low. And he's a great value because in 2023, he was the quarterback 8 on average in fantasy points. Last year, what was considered a really down year, right? Quarterback 10 on average. And again, he's going as quarterback 11, but he was quarterback 10 without Christian McCaffrey for almost the entire season, without Brandon Ayuk for half a season, with Trent Williams missing a handful of games, with Ricky Pearsall out for first half of the season, plus dealing with his own, injury to his throwing shoulder. And also, the first 5 weeks of the year actually started pretty slow for him in terms of fantasy points, even though he looked really good on the field. But week 6 through 17, he didn't play in week 18. He was highly, highly consistent. I mean, there was only 2 bust games in there. All the rest of the games were very, very good. And the 2 bust games came against the Bills in the snowstorm, in the blizzard, and against the Rams in the pouring down rain. So you just take away the games where it's torrential downpour, so much snow coming down. These are his points: 24, 17, 26, 23, 18, 22, 21, 30. Highly, highly consistent from week 6 through 17. We saw his rushing increase, which is huge for fantasy points. And when you look at games with more than 20 fantasy points scored over the last 2 seasons, Brock Purdy's at 15 games. The only quarterbacks that have more such games are Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Jalen Hurts. Those 3 guys are the top 3 quarterbacks going off the board. They're going in rounds 2 and 3, while Brock Purdy's going in, the 9th, 10th round. I love Brock Purdy's value.
Yeah, I think with Brock, too, it was so close to being more. Like, just right out of the gate. Remember, against the Jets, they kicked, I think it was 5 field goals in the game. So they were moving the ball down the field. They just could not capitalize in the red zone. And that's, I think, really what it comes down to for Brock Purdy this year, is how much do they fix that? Because they're going to move the ball. Like, Shanahan is good enough to get them between the 20s. They're going to do that. How much does he cash in, and how much is it him in the red zone? Christian McCaffrey was incredible in 2023. Most of his touchdowns were in the red zone. He was like a friggin' machine. I think that people think that if Christian McCaffrey is healthy, he's going to go right back to that. And I think that's an unrealistic expectation because that was an historically good year for McCaffrey. So even if the 49ers offense is better, I think Brock has an opportunity to put up even more touchdowns than he did in 2023 because I don't know that Christian McCaffrey is going to be able to put up, 22 that year. So I really think that this could be a big opportunity for Brock.
It could be. And we saw, I mean, like I said, with Christian McCaffrey scoring all of those rushing touchdowns and also, a good chunk of the receiving touchdowns, which helps out Brock in 2023, he still was the quarterback 8 on average. So still great value at quarterback 11 right now. I think he has a really high upside. Obviously, he can't just throw 20 passing touchdowns again. That has to come up. But we expect Christian McCaffrey being there will help Brock Purdy's passing touchdowns actually increase because everything becomes so much easier around the goal line when defenses have to worry about a guy like CMC.
And Brock Purdy had a sneaky 5 rushing touchdowns last season. Like, he put up the same number of passing touchdowns as Matthew Stafford. And he actually ended up scoring more because Stafford doesn't ever run for touchdowns. I like that Brock has done that. I think in the 10-yard area, 10-yard and in, he should look to run more in the red zone because he's good at it. He's very shifty. He's very good at eluding tacklers. And I think that people, I don't know if they underestimate his speed or his leg strength because he has monster quads, but like he seems to be able to wriggle through some tackles. And I want to see him do that more from that 10-yard area in because I think he's good at it. And I think it could add a little extra dimension to the offense and essentially maybe help Kyle Shanahan, whose offenses traditionally have not been as good in the red zone as they are everywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, for him to like come through and be a good fantasy asset, he is going to have to keep running like he's been doing. But we've seen him do it. We've seen the success. There's no reason that he should stop doing that. And he was doing it last year with being, banged up a bit and the offensive line being banged up too. So Trent Williams out there should only help him get more yards on the ground as well.
I like it. And I think that he's going to have a bounce back year. Is he going to have the 31 touchdowns that he had in 2023, 31 passing touchdowns? I don't know. I think realistically, it's probably somewhere in the middle, right? I think the 20 touchdowns is probably the floor. Maybe 31 is probably the ceiling. Is he at like 28? Would you think 28 touchdowns is a good year for Brock?
I think it'd be a really solid year. Yeah. I mean, it depends on, what everyone else is doing, how many, Christian McCaffrey steals on the ground. Like if Christian McCaffrey only has 6 rushing touchdowns or something like that, then 28 is not going to feel good enough. Yeah. But if Christian McCaffrey is putting up 14 rushing touchdowns and Brock Purdy has 28 passing, that's going to feel really good.
And by the way, I saw, people tweeting out that Brock Purdy had a really good practice yesterday and only one ball hit the ground. I don't care about passing number. I think one of the best things about the Brock Purdy contract is now we are beyond reporting training camp statistics for quarterbacks. He's going to be the starter. There's no question about it. I don't care what Brock Purdy does throughout the entirety of training camp. I really don't. I don't care if he throws 5 picks or if he throws 50 touchdowns. It's all the same to me. But I am glad to be past the point of reporting, training camp quarterback stats.
They literally don't matter whatsoever. There's nothing that comes out of them.
So is Brock Purdy still your QB 10? Where does he fall on your list?
Right now, he's my quarterback 9. But I think in terms of value where you can get him in the draft, he's one of my favorite guys to target. If I'm not going for one of the earlier guys in Josh Allen or Jaden Daniels or something like that, then I'm happy to wait and to take Brock Purdy. Now, if my team feels very safe across the board where there's not a lot of risk, I might go riskier at quarterback and take a Caleb Williams or someone like that, who I do think has higher upside than a Brock Purdy. But if I've already taken risks with like an Ashton Genty, or Brian Thomas Jr., Malik Neighbors or something like that with my earlier picks, then I'm happy to take a safer quarterback who I know will get me points in Brock Purdy.
Now, I know in the past, your philosophy has kind of been swing for the fences, right? Like, don't draft a guy that you hope is going to be average. If you're going to hit on a guy, then hit the home run. Forget the single. Are you still in that boat?
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, if you know what the guy is already and it's just mediocre at best for fantasy, and we're going to get to that with Jauan Jennings, then there's just no reason to take him.
Nice Jauan Jennings shot. It took 9 minutes and 48 seconds, but we finally got our first one. Well, all right, let's go then to the second most important man when it comes to fantasy football, and that is number 23, Christian McCaffrey. I mean, the predictions for McCaffrey are all over the place, right? He was awesome in 2023. Incredible offensive player of the year, maybe fantasy player of the year. I'm sure he carried a bunch of teams to fantasy championships. Last year, he was only healthy enough to play 4 games. 2 of those, he still went over 100 yards from scrimmage, though. So even not at 100%, it still looked like he could play when he got out on the field. What are we doing with Christian McCaffrey this year in terms of draft position, in terms of expectations for him when he's out on the field?
Yeah, I mean, fantasy managers right now are nervous to draft Christian McCaffrey, which is very fair, right? It's not just last year with the injury history. I mean, he went through a couple season span there where people were drafting him early, and he was getting injured early on in his career and was not useful for fantasy. Like he's had injury problems throughout his entire career. So that's the worry. And that's why he's going as running back 7 right now in consensus rankings. If he's healthy, that's too far. I mean, he very likely finishes as a top 3 running back when he's healthy. I mean, you brought up 2023. That was he averaged 22.4 points per game in half PPR. That was running back 1. And that was a full point more, like a 1.2 points more per game than Saquon Barkley averaged this past year. Like when he hits tremendously. That wasn't even his best year in his career. You said historical year. In 2019, he averaged 25.8 points per game. Christian McCaffrey's huge years are bigger than, these other guys that are going ahead of him. Like, I think Bijan Robinson has that potential. Yes. So I love him. But like when you're looking at Derrick Henry has never had a fantasy season like Christian McCaffrey, even in his huge, massive years. Devin Achane, I don't think has the ceiling of CMC. Josh Jacobs doesn't. Jonathan Taylor doesn't. And Josh Jacobs and Jonathan Taylor are 2 guys that have ended running back 1 before on a season. But it's not close to the seasons that Christian McCaffrey was giving you and actually like winning you week and like every single week because he's so dominant. He is only 29 years old. I feel like we think he's so old. And you brought up the 4 games he played and 2 of those over 100 scrimmage yards. Those were the only 2 full games he played with Purdy last year, because one of the games he played when Purdy didn't play in that Green Bay game. And then another one was in the Bills game where he got hurt, in the first quarter. So only 2 full games, and he had over 100 scrimmage yards in both of those games. I'm willing to take the shot that he can stay healthy, and it's a risk for sure. But if he does stay healthy, then he's a league-winning pick.
I really hope that they manage him a little better. Not so much now, because I thought Kyle Shanahan actually made a good point. He was like, last year, we didn't do any training camp with Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams to try and save them because they had played so late into the season. And neither guy played very much during the regular season at all. So there's really nothing you can do that guarantees these guys are going to stay healthy. But it looks, again, I'm trying not to draw too many conclusions, but he's done everything so far in minicamp, in OTAs. He's been on the practice field in training camp so far. Seems like he looks good. I don't think the question to me is, can he still play? Like, I know he's older for a running back. I think his ability is still there. It's just all about availability. It's just all about the health with Christian McCaffrey. And I want to get back to what this offense looked like. I mean, Christian McCaffrey had such an effect on defenses last year. I'll never forget that game against the Cardinals where the Cardinals were so concerned about Christian McCaffrey that they left Deebo Samuel completely wide open on the left side of the field. Like, no one was guarding him. He jogged out to the left side and Brock threw him a touchdown pass and he walked into the end zone. I think we forget what this offense looked like with a healthy Christian McCaffrey in there because it's been a little while. And I just want to get back to that so badly because it was so damn beautiful to watch. And I would take the risk on him. I really would. I think the upside is so great. I would take the risk on him. And, like you said, I'm going to swing for the fence and maybe I strike out. But if not, then it's going over the wall and I'm probably winning the game.
And honestly, any running back has a really solid chance of getting hurt. I mean, they get hit, 20 times? Like, these workhorse backs get hit 20 times a game. Like, there's a chance for any running back that you take early could get hurt and miss a big chunk of time. Now, it seems scarier with Christian McCaffrey. I get that. And it does seem like he gets injured a bit more than some of these other top running backs. But Saquon Barkley's had plenty of injury history throughout his career, and no one's worried about taking him super early on, right? And he just had massive volume last year. And that's exactly what we saw out of Christian McCaffrey. After massive volume, after going to the Super Bowl, right? Saquon Barkley has had such little time now to recover after winning the Super Bowl and playing and having all of those touches on his body. He actually has the greater injury risk, I think, this year than Christian McCaffrey, and no one's worried about taking Barkley. So any of these guys are honestly risky to get injured. That's why I'm willing to take Christian McCaffrey, because if he's healthy, he's producing top running back fantasy points.
And I completely agree with everything you said. I like this comment from Ryan. Christian McCaffrey getting that daddy bump. Never sleep on the daddy bump stat. He is a father now. Congratulations to the McCaffreys. Actually, I saw a little, I think it was a clip of an interview with Mason Pline, I think it was, who mentioned that Brock Purdy may have a baby on the way. The clip was taken down, so I don't know if that was ultimately not true or if the Purdys, maybe told somebody in confidence and they weren't supposed to put it out there. I have no idea. But what if you get two guys on the 49ers offense getting the dad strength bump?
Do you believe that to be a real thing? Do you think it's a real thing?
I don't know. It certainly didn't help me any. I mean, God, the sleepless nights and it was, I would not say that there was any type of boost, at least in that first year, but maybe it's different for people in the McCaffrey or the Brock Purdy life situation.
Yeah, I'm going to say I'm surprised about the boost theory, because you would think with the limited sleep you get that it would really kind of wear down your body a little bit more. But I love the narrative, though, that you become a dad and you're like Superman. I like it.
I used to wake up at 3 a.m. every day for work because I produced a morning talk show, and you got to be up and you got to be into work early. And even with that, I was never more tired than in the first year of my kids' lives. Like, it is.
I will say, Christian McCaffrey has nanny money pretty easily. So it's a little bit different. I'm sure there's a nanny, nighttime nanny. So maybe he's getting perfect amount of sleep. And I'm sure his wife, handles a ton of it because she's, I'm guessing, stay at home mom. I guess I shouldn't just guess that. But
she does modeling and things like that, right?
Okay. I have no idea. I guess I shouldn't just guess that. But yeah, Christian McCaffrey probably has the help needed to get his sleep. Very, very different than your situation.
It is that type of tired, and like you are a zombie, a freaking zombie, because you not only do you not sleep, but you never get more than like an hour consecutive of sleep. So you never like fall into that deep sleep and like restore your
and you have to be on every hour that you are up with your kid.
It is a grind.
Making me feel very happy I am childless right now.
I am telling you, like, I've said this and people get mad at me. The first year of my kids' lives was not fun for me. Like, they're not fun when they're babies, at least not for me. I'm not a baby person. It's just, there was nothing there for me. It was a job. And then eventually, they grow up, they're able to give you a little feedback, so you don't just feel like you're constantly giving. It was rough for me. I'm not going to lie. I'm glad my kids are well past that. Kenny says there should be no worry with Christian McCaffrey. Just draft Isaac Guerendo around early. Look at Guerendo's performance in games where he got a 50% snap share. He was an RB1 in those 4 games or whatever. Is that a strategy you would do, Michelle? Sort of go with the Niners handcuff McCaffrey Guerendo?
The thing is, it could be Jordan James, right? Like, we don't know if it's going to be Guerendo. Guerendo's more of that change of pace back. A lot of times where the guys who's the second running back on the depth chart, that doesn't mean that if the starter goes down, they're going to get more increased snap share, right? Because they're a different type of player. They might go to the next guy that they feel is most comfortable getting a bigger workload. And I think Jordan James kind of fits that description better than Isaac Guerendo. So I'm saying, let someone try to take Isaac Guerendo as like the handcuff to Christian McCaffrey, and you go grab Jordan James and stash him. If you have, that would be hard to hold Jordan James on your bench for that long if Christian McCaffrey, doesn't suffer an injury early on in the season. But yeah, I think that's difficult because we don't actually know if Guerendo is going to be the clear backup if McCaffrey's out.
I did a offensive line preview, or not preview, but breakdown with Johnny Dell yesterday on the channel, which I highly recommend everybody goes and watches. Not now. This is our
time.
But in the breakdown, he talked about he showed some plays where we kind of blamed the offensive line, and it wasn't necessarily, sometimes it was Juice that missed the block or Jauan Jennings, but he showed like 3 or 4 plays with Isaac Guerendo where, holy crap, if one person just did their job, he was so close to breaking off what probably would have been a huge chunk run. And it's just like, it was so frustrating to watch because it's just like they were 6-11 last year, but damn, when you watch these plays, you're like, we were so close to being so much better than that. And it made me think about Isaac Guerendo. Like, maybe he was better than I thought, because I wasn't really like super impressed with Guerendo last season.
No, and I think he's best suited as a change of pace back, because the more reps you get, the less likely you are that he's going to have that burst to break off a long one, right? Like, yeah, maybe if he runs it 20 times, maybe there's one good chunk run in there, but there's going to be a lot of disappointing runs in there as well. So I don't think Guerendo's the type of guy that if CMC goes down, he's even going to earn 15 to 20 touches in a game consistently. Like, I just don't see that being the case. I don't think that's the type of skill set he has. So that's why I'm just not worried about taking him as the handcuff to Christian McCaffrey.
And you mentioned Jauan Jennings. And again, take all this stuff with a grain of salt. But I have noticed a lot of Jauan Jennings love basically going around on Twitter. People like him. They like the way he plays, the physicality, all that stuff. I like him too. So maybe, Guerendo is in a battle for the RB2 job. They haven't said that publicly. Like Saleh yesterday said, it's a wide open competition for both safety spots. He just flat out said it in the press conference.
Because they don't have any.
Right. And it was like, okay.
Well, who's the competition? Because they haven't brought in anybody. Let Julian, what'd you say?
Julian Blackmon. Yeah,
they let Julian Blackmon just go sign with the Saints. Wild. As soon as they had a safety need, they were like, oh my God, there's a really good safety out there that we could start immediately. It's like Tyrann Mathieu retired and instantly they went and grabbed the best safety available. The 49ers are like, you know what? We're happy having no depth at all, even though we're saying we don't even know who our starters are. Okay.
I was trying to think about this and like, yeah, you could say the kickers, but put the kickers to the side because that's a different thing. When is the last time the 49ers had a wide open competition for a starting spot? It's not even
a starting spot. It's two in the same position.
Right.
Two starting spots at the same position.
You're right. But like, we haven't seen this in San Francisco in a long time. You could say quarterback, but I don't know that it was ever truly a fair competition. I think this is actually a fair, wide open competition where nobody sort of has a leg up, where they're literally going to be like, whoever looks the best in camp and preseason, you get the job. So I just thought that was interesting from Saleh yesterday.
I think they could sign a guy like Justin Simmons and instantly they'd be like, oh, thank God. Like they would see the difference between a guy that actually knows what he's doing and these young kids out there trying to fight for a job that there's not really competition. I mean, if Jair Brown and Malik Mustafa can't win jobs against Richie Grant and Jason Pinnock, then they're done for in this league. Like, they were a pointless pick. They're done for if they can't win. Now Mustafa's dealing with an injury, so we'll see what happens there. But if Jair Brown can't win a starting job against those guys, then good luck ever making it in the NFL.
I think Mustafa would have one of those jobs, but he's rehabbing the ACL injury.
Yeah.
It's kind of an open job right now because partly one of the best contenders is sort of out of the running. But anyway, I know we're getting off track for fantasy football. Saleh said that yesterday and it popped in my head when we were talking about the backup running back spot. So anyway, just wanted to talk about that. Okay. Is there anything else about Christian McCaffrey that we haven't covered?
Nah, we got it all.
All right, let's avoid the wide receivers now. Let's go to George Kittle. Talking about people that have been getting a lot of love. Obviously, Kittle and Purdy look good. They worked out in the offseason at Kittle's place. I thought this was interesting that basically the Niners gave Purdy and Kittle a list of routes that they wanted them to work on. So when they got together at Kittle's place in the offseason, they're not just like, messing around out there having a catch or whatever. Like, they have literal homework essentially from the 49ers. I thought that was interesting. I think George was the one that said that in one of his press conferences so far. But a lot of people think that this could finally be the year, Michelle, where George Kittle gets targeted the way George Kittle should have gotten targeted.
Absolutely. And I think this is his year too. I will not have, I have about 3 or 4 leagues any given year. And I think George Kittle will be on every single one of my teams unless I get sniped and I don't get to have him. This is the guy I'm most excited for the 49ers. He's going as a tight end 3 off the board right now on average, behind Brock Bowers and Trey McBride. Mm-hmm. And I think that's absolutely crazy. So I like the Brock Bowers love is insane to me. I think he's great. I think he deserves to be drafted highly. I think he's going to have a good season and be a big focal point of that Raiders offense. But he is going as the 16th overall player off the board this year, Brock Bowers is, while George Kittle's going at 33. So almost double the amount, but you can get him a good nearly 20 picks later. And I think Kittle's the better guy to go for anyways. Like if both were on the board at the same point in the third round, I still would want Kittle over Bowers. And you had to take Bowers in the middle of the second round. George Kittle was the tight end one on average last year by a decent chunk. I mean, he averaged 13.2 points per game. Brock Bowers was at 12.2. Trey McBride was at 12.1. One extra point per game in half PPR is a pretty solid distance in terms of first and second place. Now, Bowers did finish as the tight end one overall, with Kittle as the tight end two overall because Kittle missed those 2 games. But Kittle's the one that led tight ends in receiving yards per game. He tied the second most receiving touchdowns among tight ends behind only Mark Andrews. And he did this on 94 targets. Brock Bowers had 153 targets, 60 more targets than George Kittle. Trey McBride had 147 targets, so 50 more targets than George Kittle. And like we said, we expect George Kittle to get more targets this season. He has to get more targets this season. He needs to be the focal point. And when you look at his games last year, he only had 3 disappointing games in the fantasy season all year long. The rest were just absolutely fantastic for a fantasy tight end. It was week 1. Like you said, so many field goals, but week 1, he only had 6 fantasy points. Definitely disappointing. Then it was that week 13 game in Buffalo, the blizzard, and week 15 against the Rams, the downpour, right? It's no coincidence that when Brock Purdy absolutely stunk, that George Kittle absolutely stunk. Those were the only bad games all year long. And when you look at the last 2 seasons and games that a tight end scored at least 15 fantasy points in half PPR, George Kittle has 13 such games. Then that's the most among tight ends. The next closest is Trey McBride at 10, so 3 more games than the second most. And then the next closest after that is Travis Kelce at 8. So he has 5 more games with 15 plus points than the third most, the third tight end on this list. It's crazy what he does with the limited targets he gets. If those targets go up to 120 targets, like he's just going to be so stinking good. And at the tight end position, if you can find that difference maker who's scoring, 1 or 2 more points than the rest of the position, you're in such a competitive advantage. George Kittle is going to be on every single one of my teams.
And I'm just going to say this, and people yell at me when I do this, but I still think it's fair. Brock Bowers had 153 targets last year and 112 catches. He may never reach those totals again. Like, you think he's going to get more than 153 targets this year? Forget that the quarterback, I get it. Oh, the quarterback was bad, whatever. Do you think Brock Bowers is going to get more than 153 targets this year? I'm taking the under on that.
Yeah, it's hard not to, right? Because Ashton Genty's there. They're going to be able to, they were the worst running offense in the league last year. They drafted Ashton Genty for a reason. He's going to take a lot of rushing opportunities, and he's a great receiving back too. So he's going to take those. They drafted a wide receiver in the second round, and Jack Besh. He could steal some. Jacoby Myers, I think, is a really solid wide receiver. And Geno Smith in general is just a better quarterback. So I will say his targets could go down, and he could still see more success in efficiency and maybe yards per reception. His touchdowns could go up. He only had 5 last year. Like, his targets could just be better than what he got last year. We don't love Geno Smith, but we can agree he's better than Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew or Desmond Ridder. Like, we don't hate him that much. If he gets more than 153 targets, that's crazy. Like, tight ends just don't see that workload very often.
Most receivers don't see that work.
Exactly.
By the way, who's his head coach? Pete Carroll, the ancient one. What does Pete Carroll love to do? Run the football. I'm saying he might get, better targets, but he's not going to do more with his targets than George Kittle is going to do with his targets. Like, nobody does more with less than George Kittle. So I would absolutely take Kittle as tight end 1. I think this is the year, especially early in the year, where George Kittle might have a couple of games where he literally wins you your matchup that week. I think they're going to throw the ball to him like crazy, especially if week 1 ends up being Jauan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall. And if Jennings decides to suddenly hold out or Pearsall can't play because he's hurt, then Kittle's going to get even more opportunity. So I absolutely love George Kittle. Of all 49ers, George Kittle would be the one I want the most, more than Brock, more than CMC, just because I think Kittle is more of a sure thing. There are questions with Christian McCaffrey. George Kittle will be the Niner I want the most on any of my teams.
Absolutely. It's not even close for me either. I'm getting George Kittle on all of them. It's happening, and he hopefully stays healthy. But I think like George Kittle should be the guy going in the second round this year, being talked up as this guy that could be a league winner. Instead, they're doing that for Brock Bowers and waiting for Kittle at the end of the third round, maybe the early fourth round. That's where he's going on average. And I'm so happy to take him right there.
Come on, George. Show everybody. Well, I should say, come on, Kyle. Show everybody what George can do. Finally unleash him, and let's get rolling here. All right. Now we get to the juicy part of the fantasy preview, Michelle. The most unknown, the part of the show where you and I are going to shout at each other, I imagine, and that is 49ers wide receivers. Which wide receiver would you like to start with?
I'm going to start with Ricky Pearsall because I think you'll actually be pleasantly surprised with my opinion on him for this year.
Ooh, all right, good.
So he's actually one of my favorite late round values. This is what I'm saying. So I'm probably too high in the 49ers because I like them all. And I'm going to have to pick and choose. You cannot just draft all of these guys from the same team. That's not a successful, strategy to go about to win fantasy football leagues. But I will say, I think Pearsall's my second favorite value in fantasy drafts for the 49ers. So it's George Kittle, like I want on every team. And I'm going to be getting Pearsall on most of my teams too, because he's going as a wide receiver 45 right now off boards. 105th overall, 9th, 10th round pick. And we know how many vacated targets there are in this offense from last year with Deebo Samuel gone, Brandon Ayuk. I mean, John Lynch says there's not even a timeline that they could come up with right now for when he'll be back, right? Fully expect him to miss the first half of the year. They really only added Demarcus Robinson and Watkins. And we know that, and Jordan Watkins, we know that Shanahan does not trust rookies. So it's going to be hard for him to earn much playing time and targets. Demarcus Robinson is likely to be suspended at least 3 games to start the season. Jauan Jennings has his own issues right now, but he is there at practice. So I think it'll be fine with Jennings. But if Pearsall as a first round pick can't earn targets over Jennings, then we have a serious problem, right? And I don't want to hold on. I'm not even really looking at his rookie season all that much to see what he could do. I mean, he was shot in the chest right before the season. He missed the first, he didn't come back to week 7, which was a very fast return right off the bat. Comes in cold as a rookie, right? And as we said, Shanahan just doesn't really trust rookies at all to begin with. But he had 3 games last year with at least 6 targets. That's it. Only 3 games. But he averaged 18.6 fantasy points per game and half PPR in those games. At least 15 points scored in all 3 of those games. It was week 10, week 17, and week 18. And I think it's promising that we saw his targets increase in those final 2 weeks of the season because, rookies, as they get deeper in, then they get more trust. So I'm really excited to see what Pearsall can do. I think he needs to step up as a true wide receiver 1 on this team. If it's Jauan Jennings again, I fear that this team is going to struggle on offense.
In those games that you mentioned, the 6 target games for Ricky Pearsall, the thing I like is in that week 10 game, he averaged 18.3 yards per catch. In the week 17 game, he averaged 17.6 yards per catch. And then the final week of the season, he was a little lower, down at 11.5. Remember, that wasn't Brock Purdy as the quarterback of that game. That was Josh Dobbs. I think that ideally they want to use Pearsall the way they used Ayuk in 2023. He may not get, 150 targets, but they are going to try to get him open deeper down the field for chunk plays, 15, 18, 20-yard plays. I think they really do see Ayuk and Pearsall as having similar skill sets, people that can hopefully, run good routes and get open against man coverage. I think that's how ideally they would like to use Ricky Pearsall. And by the way, I texted you when I heard the new Ricky Pearsall's going on PUP. Oh my God, is he hurt again? This is so terrible. Everything that we're hearing is that he looks good. The videos we're seeing of him working on the side, he looks like he's running hard. Kyle Shanahan said he hit his mile per hour number. Everything that we've seen so far looks like on the first padded practice, which is Monday, Ricky Pearsall will be out on the field. So we can all, exhale a little bit. Now, we got to see how long he stays there, of course. But at least on that side of it, things look good. I've been so high on Pearsall. I've been higher on Pearsall than anybody. I think he could be really good, especially in this offense. So I'm totally getting it. he would absolutely be a late round pick for me. I love that because if it hits, I think you have a chance to hit big. Like I said, similar to Ayuk in 2023.
Yeah, you have the chance for him to be a top 15 wide receiver on the year. If you're taking Jauan Jennings, who's actually going earlier than Ricky Pearsall, not by much, but about a round earlier than Pearsall in fantasy drafts, you just don't have that same upside. I mean, Jennings will have a couple nice games here and there and then give you a ton of terrible games. We can get into that. But yeah, if I'm taking a shot on one of these wide receivers, it's definitely Pearsall. And Pearsall's even going after Deebo Samuel, who, he's kind of taken his job here in the 49ers while he went to Washington. I'd much rather Pearsall than Deebo. He's going after guys like Jaden Reed and Khalil Shakir and Jacoby Myers, who I do like Jacoby Myers, but Pearsall's upside is just so much higher than all of those guys. That's where I want to take that shot.
Foot, who's our resident pessimist in the comments, but that's fine. Foot says Pearsall showed good stuff last season. I think he has talent, but missing multiple off seasons in just 2 years in the league is not good. He hasn't missed the off season this year. I know they shut him down in minicamp, but it looks like he's going to be on the field for the first padded practice of training camp. And remember, he already was working out with Brock Purdy in the offseason as well. So it's not like, he missed this whole offseason. Now, if he gets hurt again and he can't do training camp, yeah, that's a fair thing. But I mean,
but also you can't hold last year against him.
Well, but here's the thing. He got hurt before he got shot. He got hurt. He had a shoulder injury and a hamstring injury. So that was not ideal, obviously. So it is fair to point out that, because that was before the shooting. True. Let's just remember that. And then, but hopefully this year, if he's out on the field for the first padded practice of training camp, like, are you really going to care that he missed these warm-up non-padded practices? No one's going to it's not even going to matter at all.
Now, if he goes out there next week and he re-aggravates his hamstring injury, that's going to be a serious problem because that means, he's had a long time now to recover from this hamstring injury. If it pops up again, then how much time do you give him to recover this time? And then, that will then be an issue.
And I want to reiterate one more time, because I know he's had a couple hamstring issues and all that. Ricky Pearsall, the only time he's ever missed a football game in his career is when he got shot through the chest. He never missed a game in college, and he was going to play week 1. Remember, he got shot and told John Lynch from the hospital bed, I think I can play against the Jets. So, he was ready to go physically before the shooting. So even though he was banged up in the preseason, he was going to be out there. So I'm just saying, let's not call Ricky Pearsall injury prone quite yet. Although if he gets hurt again, then you do start to worry in a big way. But I'm very high on Ricky Pearsall, and I hope he can get out there because there's nothing more fun than when a guy your team drafts, especially a guy your team drafts high, when they play and look really good right out of the gate. It's a different kind of feeling, man. And I want to feel that with Ricky Pearsall.
They need to give him the shot. Now, I still want George Kittle to be the focal point of this offense and the passing offense. But I still I want Ricky Pearsall to be the first wide receiver target on this team. I do not want it to be Jennings.
Let's get to your favorite 49ers wide receiver, number 15 in your program, number 1 in Michelle's heart, Jauan Jennings. No hold out, no hold in. He's on the field. He's catching passes. He appears to be in good spirits. Now, I think it's interesting they haven't let him speak to the media at all. I would like to see that, but they haven't let him do that. But by all indications, the whole, it's a distraction and all that stuff, it has gone just as smoothly as if Jauan Jennings had gotten a contract extension.
So this is what I'm going to say about Jauan Jennings. He is the wide receiver 38 in ranks right now, and according to Fantasy Pros. So wide receiver 38 off the board in average drafts. He was a wide receiver 29 on average last year. Very solid season for him. Very shocking season, right? Totally give him that. But it came off of a few really, really big games. I mean, that 3 touchdown game, 175 yards for 41 fantasy points, skews his data a ton. And then he had another 2 touchdown game in week 14. Outside of those 2 games, he had one other good game on the year. 9 of his 15 games played last year, he scored 8 or fewer fantasy points. If your guy's scoring 8 or fewer fantasy points, he's just destroying. He did nothing to help you. That was 60% of his games. In 11 of 15 games played last year, he scored 10 or fewer fantasy points. 73% of games, he scored 10 or fewer fantasy points. That's not a guy you are missing whatsoever in drafting. The upside for him in any given week, sure, you can give you that big blow-up week maybe if he catches multiple touchdowns. I cannot just draft a guy and say, maybe this random 1 week he'll score multiple touchdowns and help me. And then the rest of the weeks he's going to destroy me. I mean, that's just a bad draft pick. It's a bad guy to be plugging in week after week after week when he's destroying you just in hopes that he can catch a couple touchdowns in one given game. And I mean, I'm sorry, with them leaning on him as their wide receiver 1 last year, that brought them to a 6-11 record. There's a lot of other problems on this team, but you cannot go into the same game plan as you did last year. The offense was just not efficient enough. And it's because Jauan Jennings was the wide receiver 1 on this team last year. They need to utilize George Kittle. They need Ricky Pearsall to step up. They need CMC to get back and utilize him in the passing game. And Jauan Jennings can go back to his, limited role where he can be a good guy to target on third down, and he can come through with some clutch plays. But he should not be dependent on to get 120 targets again this year.
Yeah, Jauan, I like him, but I'm not. I think people let their love for him color how they see his contributions on the field. And he only scored 6 touchdowns last year. But like you pointed out, that came in 3 weeks. And that is, it's great for those weeks. But you would much rather have a guy that can score more consistently week to week. Jauan Jennings hasn't been that in his career. If anything, I would say, like, if you could pick him up before they play the Rams, he seems to play well against the Rams. Great. Like, that'd be an absolutely, fire play, a pickup for that week. I'm all for it. But they shouldn't need him to be wide receiver 1, and that's not his best role in terms of what he can contribute for the team this season. Putting aside the fantasy for a second, like, let him be the third down guy. Run blocking guy. Great. Absolutely. There's a role for him and a spot for him, and he can make significant contributions. But that's it. And then when it comes to fantasy, like you said, yeah, he would be way, way far down on my list. I like this comment from Joe Tiz. And when I say I like it, I really mean I hate it. He says, Jauan Jennings is a beast. Michelle doesn't watch ball. His quarterback has a noodle arm. First of all, Michelle is a researcher for NFL Network, Joe. She watches more balls than you. And second of all, how did Brandon Ayuk put up the year he had in 2023? He had the same quarterback that Jauan Jennings had. Somehow Brandon Ayuk was able to lead the league in yards per catch. I don't know. Just saying.
George Kittle leads the league in yards per target over the last 2 years. We don't have to go give Joe Tiz any time here. But I'm not trying to hate on Jennings. I think I like him as part of this team. I think he's a good NFL player. I'm just not drafting him in fantasy. He needs an absurd amount of targets to put up a good week. Even when he had 11 targets against the Buccaneers, 7 for 93, 0 touchdowns, fine, 12.8. Like, you got 11 targets and all you could give us was 12 fantasy points. And then even when he had 11 targets in week 11, he got the touchdown, which helped his fantasy day, but 10 receptions for 91 yards. You're averaging 9 yards per reception. That's just not good enough to help your team out. In week 17 against the Lions, depleted defense with nobody. He got 10 targets. Had 7 receptions for 67 yards and 0 touchdowns. And against the Rams, now it was a downpour. You brought that up. In 9 targets, 2 receptions, 31 yards. That's not all on him. Brock Purdy had a really bad day that day. It's like he showed, I think people like look at that week 3 game and he did Moss guys, right? Like that wasn't, I can't take that game away from him. Watching him, it was so fun. He looked like the best wide receiver in the league during that game. But some guys just have those like insanity moments, right? Like I'm going back to the NBA here. And then it just doesn't ever happen again. And that's just what I think about Jennings.
I think that he is the classic example of a better football player than he is a fantasy player. He's a good football player. He contributes to the team. Like you could have 6 catches for 40 yards. If 4 of those catches are first downs, like that's a good day. But fantasy wise, it's not a good day. And those are 2 separate things. And I think that, it's okay to say that. He's a fine football player, fantasy wide receiver. There are just better options out there. And that's just the reality of the situation for the 49ers. And
now he's going to have a ton of playing time and he's going to have some targets, but I still think he could be the 4th target on this team behind Kittle, Pearsall, CMC.
And he should be. Like I would want.
And he should be. Yes.
Quite honestly. And then when it comes to any other wide receiver on the roster, you're in a watch and see mode. You're not drafting Jacob Cowing. You're not drafting Jordan Watkins. You're not doing any of that. By the way, the Jacob Cowing hamstring injury on the first day of camp on air was just like, my God, because we had all heard Kyle Shanahan talk about, he said nobody had a better mini camp and OTAs than Jacob Cowing. They were really impressed with all the work he put in. And like I always say, like, okay, that's good, but now let me put it to the test. And training camp was going to be that first test for Jacob Cowing, and he immediately got hurt. So now we don't know. And it's just very frustrating because he was somebody that we all wanted to see last year, couldn't get out on the field last year, and now he's hurt again.
And it'll be interesting to see how, how much Shanahan can trust Jordan Watkins in his rookie season, if he can get on the field, if he can earn some targets.
Yeah, he's one of, I don't know if I'm ready to say the most, but he's definitely one of the guys I'm most looking forward to watching in the preseason. And he's probably going to get a lot of run, especially early, right? Because, he's a rookie. He's not a highly drafted rookie. He's lower on the depth chart. So he'll probably be playing in the third and fourth quarters of these preseason games. And yeah, I want to see it because he's gotten some rave reviews. I like all his combine numbers. Maybe he could be good. He's definitely going to have opportunity. I can't wait for the preseason this year, Michelle. I am going to be so locked in on all these games. The instant reaction shows for the preseason might be the most fun all year.
Especially for the defensive players and all the young guys they have there. It'll be really fun to watch.
So, Brock Purdy, we talked about. Christian McCaffrey, we talked about. George Kittle, we talked about. And Pearsall and Jauan Jennings. Brandon Ayuk. Kyle Shanahan said, hoping to get him back in the first half of the season. That was as close to a timeline as they gave. And they really gave it about all the guys coming back from ACL. Malik Mustafa, Curtis Rourke, the Maple Missile, fantastic nickname, and Brandon Ayuk. Let's say it's week 8, right? And Brandon Ayuk is back. Are you rushing to the waiver wire to pick up Brandon Ayuk?
Well, the thing is, people are drafting him still, like in the 8th, 9th round, which is crazy to me. Wow. And then if you have an IR spot in your league, then he's going to be sitting there. Obviously, yes, if he's available and he's coming back, I'm going to be picking him up. I'm not going to be rushing to start him, though. I'm going to be seeing, how he looks and what he can do. But at that point in the season, yes, you would definitely grab a guy that has shown that he could be great for fantasy in his career before.
Strawberry React says, sorry if you already answered this, but when should we expect Pearsall to be taken off PUP, tomorrow or on the first day off, or will they wait until the day of and announce it Sunday, Monday? They can take him off at any time. The first padded practice is Monday. They can't have a padded practice before that because you got to have, I think it's 4 non-padded practices by rule, according to the CBA. So they did Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The off day is Saturday, I believe. They'll do another non-padded practice on Sunday. And then Monday is the first padded practice. And I think the 49ers plan is to just have him on the field then. So I would say Monday is probably when that happens. And again, they can take him off of the PUP at any point. So that's when I would expect to see Ricky Pearsall out there. Although, again, all the workout clips, I can't share my screen right now because Firefox is doing something weird. So I got to figure that out. But if I could show you the video clips of Ricky Pearsall, you would be impressed by what you saw because he looks healthy.
So, yeah, it sounds, from Kyle Shanahan, he says he expects him to return to practice on Sunday. And he also said Ricky is someone that if this was probably a few years ago, we would have practiced him today, which was Wednesday when he said that. He said when you hit your GPS speed, your max speed that you hit before you were hurt, when you can run all those routes, that's usually your protocol to go back. He hit all that stuff over the weekend, which we felt good about, but we wanted to give him more time to get his conditioning right before they put him back out there. So it sounds like he's perfectly healthy. They're just playing it safe, which thank you, Kyle Shanahan, because I'm happy he said he's learning from his mistakes a few years ago.
And the thing I learned too about the Niners is when they have an off day, they get the first practice after the off day is a light practice because they don't want guys to come off of doing nothing and then be full go. So they actually kind of ramp everybody up, not just the injured guys. So it'll be off day, Saturday, Sunday's practice would be a light one. And then Monday, when they put the pads on, they can ramp it up a little bit. And hopefully we see Ricky out there. Foot has a super chat, says, all due respect, but too much rosé.
It's mimosa.
The mimosa, first of all. That is the most important part of this to Michelle. Make sure you get that right. We don't have receivers. Jauan Jennings will most definitely be a primary target. Brandon Ayuk is hurt. Ricky Pearsall unclear. Maybe one unproven guy shows out. There may be opportunities for Jauan Jennings, but again, he only put up 975 yards last year. Like, that was a good year for him. But in terms of a good year for a wide receiver, 975 yards is not that great of a year. It's just not.
Especially when 175 of them came in one game.
Right. So, again, I get why people like Jauan Jennings. I get it. And I get that he played better last year than he's ever played in his career. But that doesn't mean that he was incredible last year. Again, 975 yards. It is what it is. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Nothing to shake a stick at, but we're talking fantasy wide receivers.
And they desperately needed him last year. But now hopefully they use Kittle more. Like I said, I'm hyping up Pearsall here. Christian McCaffrey takes over 100 targets on this team, right? If he's healthy. He wasn't there last year. I just don't think Jennings is going to be used as much, and he should not be used as much. Did you guys like watching the offense last year? That's what confuses me, right? It's like Jennings is so good. It's like, well, he was a wide receiver 1 last year, and the offense struggled because he's not a wide receiver 1 in this league. He's just not. I've become the Jennings hater, but it's because you can love him and want him to be part of your team and recognize he's a good NFL player as a wide receiver 2/3 in important situations or whatever. But when you have to lean on him drive after drive and play after play, that's just not
weak.
Yeah, it's just not the role he can be playing, and you're going to have a successful year. It's just not going to happen.
It's not the best way to use him. It's not the best way to put him in a position to succeed. And that's what coach's job is. This is one note that I found from Warren Sharp that I absolutely love last year. When you talk about McCaffrey and you talk about what him being on the field, how that affects other guys. In 2023, Christian McCaffrey got 25, I shouldn't say Christian McCaffrey, running backs got 25% of Brock Purdy's total targets. Now, Christian McCaffrey got most of that because he was the only running back Kyle ever played. But think about that. A quarter of the passing targets went to Christian McCaffrey. So when you try to figure how this is going to affect everybody when he comes back this year, assuming he can play, that is a major, major thing. So now you got to take the passing targets that Brock Purdy would have, take a quarter of those targets and take them out. Now you've got Pearsall and Ayuk when he comes back, and Kittle and Jauan Jennings and Cowing and Watkins competing for just 75% of the targets when the Niners don't even throw the ball that much to begin with. So you have to take all that into account when you're trying to figure out for fantasy purposes who you want from the 49ers.
There's just a lot of players here that are all kind of in the boat where it's like any of them could have a big year, any of them could disappoint. And it makes it hard for fantasy. But I do think where all of them are getting drafted right now in fantasy, they're all values because of those worries. And I'm willing to take the shot on, obviously, like I said, I'm not going to draft all of them in my same leagues like that. That's not a successful way to draft and to win leagues. But I do want pieces of this offense, and I think they're all great values right now.
Another stat that I just saw that I should have mentioned, we were talking about Ricky Pearsall. He led the 49ers last year with 2.11 yards per route run against man coverage. So when I talk about them wanting to use him the way they used Brandon Ayuk in 2023, I think that's part of the reason why they think he can really do it. And we'll see. I would like to see the Yak return to this offense because they were 13th in the NFL in yards after catch last year. That is not a Kyle Shanahan offense. He has been leading the league for most of his entire tenure. So whether it's Pearsall, Jennings, Kittle, McCaffrey, whoever, give me a little Yak back because I think that's when this offense was at its best.
And McCaffrey will offer that right away, right? When you're not targeting the running backs as much, that's going to come down. And they just didn't have a running back last year that Brock Purdy trusted in the receiving game. So with that back, that's going to bring back a lot of yak just right there.
Completely agree. One last note I want to get to. This is not a fantasy note, but I saw it this morning. The 49ers and this rivalry jersey. We've been waiting and waiting to see what this rivalry jersey is going to look like. They released a little bit of news about it today. Two things. Number one, they're going to wear it on the last game of the season against the Seahawks. And we're not even going to get to see this thing, Michelle, until the end of August. August 28th, I believe, is the day that they're going to release what the actual jersey looks like. So they have hyped this thing up. They've teased it in the schedule release video. They have done everything with this thing. And there is now so much buildup, including an extra month. We're not even going to get to see it till the end of August.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think there's a person in the world that cares less about jersey reveals.
I
I do not care. I do not care what they're going to wear in certain games. Like I know some people get pumped and some like, I work for NFL Network. They make it news. They love it. Or they're like these jersey reveals. I do not care whatsoever.
I'm making my official prediction now. It's going to be a black jersey.
Ooh.
It's black numbers with gold outline. That's exactly what
if it's all black like that and it's sexy, then I might buy it. I might be excited. I do love a black jersey. I
usually don't, but if they pair it with a black helmet and they make everything else on the helmet gold, like the all gold SF kind of a stencil, that would maybe be something I'd be interested in. I just hope it doesn't look like the Saints. That's my worry.
So what if they did the red coloring around the number instead of gold?
Nope. Don't like it. They tried the black and red.
Well, the black and gold is going to look like the Saints.
But if maybe it could look like actual gold, I don't know. I just hope it does. I don't like when my team looks like other teams. You know what I'm saying? So it's a very difficult thing. But again, August 28th, I think, is the jersey reveal day. So go ahead.
Hold on. Saints jerseys. I'm trying to look at their colors real quick. Yeah, it is a very similar color because it's a very different color than the Steelers, right? I know they say black and gold for the Steelers, but it's very yellow. It's a lot more yellow than either the Saints gold or the 49ers gold. So I don't think it's going to look like Steelers whatsoever. But yeah, they're going to have trouble making it not look like a Saints.
And I don't want that because first of all, the Saints they suck. They're going to be terrible this year. I don't want to be associated with any of that. But anyway. That's what we think it's going to be. But that is the 49ers 2025 fantasy preview. If you want more fantasy notes and nuggets from Michelle, check out the Locked On Fantasy podcast. I know you're there every single day and you're putting out fantasy content constantly. Like I said, this is your year, Michelle. This is going to be the Jesus take the wheel year. I'm just going to listen to whatever you say. And if it turns out better than what I've done, which admittedly is a low bar, then that's it. I won't buy the fantasy magazine anymore that you always make fun of me for.
I was going to say the first thing you have to do is throw out that fantasy magazine. That's my first.
That's mean. I sent you the picture. I was on vacation.
You said you're going to follow what I say, and I'm telling you to throw out the fantasy magazine.
I could read it, right? I don't have to listen to it, but I still enjoy it.
You could read it, but you can't use any of their information.
Michelle sends me little nuggets. She tests me. She's like, oh yeah? Who does that fantasy magazine have listed as the number one running back? And it was Bijan Robinson.
They had it correctly. It's fine.
Happens to be my keeper for this year. So
then you're already in a great spot. This is going to be so easy for me.
There you go. Off to a good start. And of course, if things go badly, then I will ridicule you constantly and I will put all the blame on you.
And I'll still say it's just, you're doing something wrong. You're not listening to me is what I'm going to say.
It'll still somehow be my fault.
Yes.
Anyway, that's going to do it for this edition of the show. Thank you, everybody. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. If you're new to the channel, I know a lot of people are new this time of year. We do shows every single weekday. Michelle and I do a show every Friday. This is usually our gambling and fantasy show. When the Niners have games, we'll break it down from a betting and fantasy perspective. Obviously, we're not there yet. But this is what we normally do on a Friday. So if this is your first time checking us out, thank you. Please come back. I promise you will like what you see. And we won't let you down this year. Buckle up. It's going to be a lot of fun. Michelle, last thing before we go, what do you got going on this weekend?
Apparently I'm lame. I don't have anything going on this weekend again. I mean, I'm going to go do stuff. I just don't have anything planned at this exact moment.
Yep. You always like to make fun of me. You say, I'm such an old man. I don't do anything. The past 3 weeks I've been asking you. You're like, well, I don't know.
I don't have any plans. I don't know. But I always end up going to do fun stuff. I just don't have anything planned at the moment.
I have a feeling an espresso martini will be part of those plans.
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, there you go. Enjoy your Friday. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye, y'all.